One, two, one, two. What's good, everybody? This is your boy Tony O, the host with the most over here at AMFM, and today I come to you with not another fragrance review, but a little bit of a story. I want to take y'all on my fragrance journey, so to speak. We're going to go back to junior high, 1986. You know what I'm saying? I'm 13 years old, and the last thing on my mind was smelling good, right? I grew up at a time where there weren't a lot of fragrances available for men. And even the concept of cologne, as far as a 13-year-old may have been, was something like aftershave or things like that. You know what I'm saying? There was probably three fragrances that stick out in my mind from those times. One was Stetson for men. One was Jovan Musk. And what would I say the other one was? Brut, right? And I think Brut was more of an aftershave than it was a cologne. But for young men like myself, we may have dibbled and dabbled in our father's colognes or our father's aftershaves and things like that. If you were lucky enough to have a father who was one who was, very conscious of smelling good and things like that, you may have been, early in the game. But for me, it wasn't the case, you know what I'm saying? And for about 2 or 3 years, well, the 2 to 3 years that I did spend in junior high school, it wasn't a big thing. You were more concerned about not stinking, because between those ages of 13 and 16, that's when you start to get into sweating. That's when you get into, like, in your junior high classes, you have gym and things like that. So you're out there running and things like that, and you're sweating, you're taking showers at school, and all you were worried about was not stinking, not being musty. You know what I'm saying? I was personally worried about not having sweat marks up under my t-shirts and things like that. But as far as deodorant went, which was probably the earliest I was introduced into a fragrance type of thing, all we had was Right Guard. Hit the like button if you know what I'm talking about. That's all we had as young men. By the time I got to high school, where you start dating, you start, becoming active, you know what I'm saying, with the females and things like that. You're about 16 or 17 years old. And by this time, you're competing with the guys who graduated the last year or two, the 20-year-olds, the 21-year-olds, the ones who are out there, really getting it in, you know what I'm saying? And when you're, 16, 17, 18, you're competing with those guys, you know what I'm saying? So you might get wind of a fragrance, or the fact that there are fragrances out there that girls are really liking, that they speaking on. And a lot of the times that is your introduction into fragrances, a female, trying to impress a female, or a female hearing a female talk about a dude that she was dating. Oh, he smells so good and things like that. And they didn't even know what he had on. So you had no idea of what you were looking for. You know what I'm saying? But what I will say is, shout out to my boy, Jose Grace, AKA Spartacus Life, who, I think we were in the 11th grade, and we came back from Christmas break or something like that, and my dude had switched his whole style up. You know what I'm saying? My dude used to wear lumberjack shirts, sniper hats, and super baggy jeans and things like that. And my boy came back from Christmas vacation rocking Liz Claiborne button up, the silk rayon type pants, you know what I'm saying, and the laceless shoes, you know what I'm saying, the whole thing, you know what I'm saying. But that's when we started getting into fragrances. And I think one of the first fragrances that I got put up on at that time was by Liz Claiborne, because my boy was always rocking Liz Claiborne. That was all he would talk about. And International Concepts, if anybody know about International Concepts, I don't know if they still out there, INC, but that was my boy's brand, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, Liz Claiborne was probably the first fragrance that I probably picked up. And what I do remember about that is after a while, that was a fragrance that I wasn't too much a fan of. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it was a EDT or something like that, but back then I think a lot of fragrances had a heavy alcohol content. You know what I'm saying? So I really wasn't too fond of that fragrance after a while. So I didn't wear it a lot. And of course, probably over time that the the true essence of it probably dissipated and it just got down to the EDT side of the fragrance. And I was just like, man, whatever, I don't like this. But then Calvin Klein comes out with his lineup, and he had Obsession, he had Eternity, and he had CK1. And if anybody remembers back in those days, you know what I'm saying, I want to say 89 and 91, everybody was rocking that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure what year Jordan came out with his cologne, but it was a few people rocking that. And then all of a sudden, you saw this explosion of fragrances, and dudes were talking about it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe from the time of, 91 up until 94, I started getting into fragrances. But let me backpedal a little bit. When I was younger, in junior high, my mother used to have this little side hustle where she worked for this company called Avon. And if I'm pretty sure some of you guys are familiar with Avon, it's a very big brand right now. But back in the day, it was more like a subculture. You know what I'm saying? And with her working with this company, she would always have these bags of samples. And, I would maybe dibble and dabble into the samples. They didn't have no atomizers back then. It was all just a little glass vial. You just popped a little plastic top off, pour a little bit in your hand, be done with it. I don't know nothing about pulse points. I don't know nothing about none of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? But that was just to take y'all back to how fragrances kind of came into my life. To bring it back up to speed, by this time, Right Guard is a thing of the past now. You know what I'm saying? They got all kinds of colognes out now. You got Degree, you got Suave and things like that. And I was even kind of partial to Suave for a minute because the commercials used to say it was strong enough for a man but made for a woman. And like I say, I used to sweat a lot when I was in junior high or whatever. So some of these colognes, some of these deodorants that they had for men, they just wasn't working for me. I think they were heavily alcohol based and things like that. We used to have the gel, that we had the gel or the spray. I didn't like the spray because it reminded me of that shit they used to hit you with at the barbershop, and the gels just would not last. So I had asked a buddy of mine, my boy Travis, who was a little bit older than me, because by the time I got to high school, I started hanging out with some of the older guys. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't hanging out with too many kids or too many dudes that were my age. All my friends were at least 2 or 3 years older than me. But he used to take baby powder and pack it up under his arm, you know what I'm saying, instead of wearing the deodorants that we had available for us. And then Suave came out with the baby powder deodorant, so I started rocking with that. And to this day, I still fuck with Suave and the baby powder, you know what I'm saying, Degree and things like that. But like I say, by the time I got out of high school and started getting a little bit more into fashion, because for damn near the whole time I was in grade school, junior high up to high school, I was a t-shirt jeans guy. I did not dress up whatsoever. I was not rocking button-ups unless they were lumberjack shirts or the plaid looking shirts. You know what I'm saying? That was as far as I went. Maybe a polo, you know what I'm saying? But as I got older and started really getting into, dating around and things like that, I would get into the fragrances. And one of the fragrances, one of my earliest fragrances that I remember really locking in on was Gray Flannel by Jeffrey Bean. And at this time, I didn't even know that Jeffrey Bean was a label. You know what I'm saying? I just found this cologne. I don't know how I discovered this cologne, but I found this cologne and I started rocking with it. It was a real fresh scent. And I was like, you know what? I like this. You know what I'm saying? So I started rocking with Jeffrey Bean. That was my signature scent. That's what I went with. You know what I'm saying? And around that time, I lost my little brother to some street violence. And I had an uncle who had just got out of prison about 2 or 3 years prior to it. And while he was in prison, he was heavily into the incense and the African oils and things like that. You know, when he started tapping in with the nation and dealing with the Black Power aspect of things, you know, in prison. When he came out, he turned me on to the oils. And, you know, that was something that he was trying to step into. He was trying to create his own fragrances, mixing the oils, trying to find a signature scent. And shortly after my brother passed, he passed. And before he passed, he left his oils with me. You know what I'm saying? And I still have a lot of those oils to this day. Those oils last forever. But, you know, that was when I started getting into the oils and things like that. And I wasn't a big shopper when it came to department stores, you know, so a lot of the times at some of these I don't want to call them flea markets, you know what I'm saying? But we had this store called Durant Square where I was at, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, you go up in there and, you know, pick you up a pair of shoes, a couple of t-shirts, some jeans or something like that. But you would happen to run across the the stands or the storefronts where they sold a lot of stuff for women. A lot of this stuff is heavily on the women's side. Men's colognes, men's fragrances, things like that is a very small, well, at that time was a very small category in that realm. You know what I'm saying? It was more about chicks wearing perfume and all, you know, that type of stuff. So I would slide by and I'd see something and I'd be looking like, man, what y'all got for men up in here? You know what I'm saying? And they'd give me some colognes, some oils and stuff like that. And that's how I got kind of turned on to those. And shortly after that, let's see, what was the transition after that? After that, I think I kind of fell back for a minute from buying any colognes or anything because these oils, I was rocking with the oils. The oils was lasting me forever, so I really wasn't tripping on too much of the cologne. But I would say over the last 2 years, I started really getting into the colognes. I started really getting into fashion, trying to dress up a little bit more. And at, you know, early on, you know, from maybe like the age of 21 up to maybe 25, you know what I mean? I was never a big clubber going out and things like that. So there was really no reason for me to really be tripping on too much of how I smelled. I was just working, getting my money, working on my cars, hanging out with my boys in the studio. So I really wasn't concerned about smelling good around these people. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times men are more concerned about the way they smell when it comes to them being around, you know, the females and things like that, you know, working with the pheromones and trying to turn them on or whatever the case may be. But like I say, after Jeffrey Bean, I kind of fell off for a minute. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really look for any new fragrances or anything, you know, anything like that. And then all of a sudden, I want to say maybe like the last 2 years, I just really got into buying fragrances, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't so much about the smell as much as it was about the bottles. You know, I'm an aesthetic guy, you know what I'm saying? I like the way things look, you know, the way they perform is to me a plus, you know what I'm saying? If the look catches your eye and then the performance is right there with it, then you all good. So a lot of times I would buy colognes just because I like the way the bottle looked. You know, I really wasn't too concerned about the smell or what the differences were or, you know, how they reacted to my body, you know, anything like that. And then all of a sudden I just dove in head first and just started buying shit to the point to where I was just buying stuff and I really wasn't even wearing it because it was all situational for me. If I'm spending 4 to 5 days a week working, this 4 or 5 days out of the week that I'm not wearing no cologne at all. And if me and my girl aren't going out or doing anything like that, if we're just going out to dinner or something like that, or just to go have a couple of drinks, I really wasn't tripping. Like I say, my biggest concern was just making sure that I didn't stink when I was out. You know what I'm saying? But that brought me to this point. And to get to where I'm at now, as far as doing the fragrance reviews, that didn't happen until this year. You know, maybe, I want to say maybe around February or March of this year, you know what I'm saying, where I just said, you know what, I'm gonna just got, you know, just start doing this fragrance review thing, because I looked up and I was like, man, you got a lot of damn cologne and you don't even wear a lot of this shit. You don't even know what some of this shit still smells like. you know what I'm saying, what the components are, and all that stuff just started to intrigue me. And I had no idea that there was this big market out there where people were doing fragrance reviews and things like that. So I'm kind of, bringing myself up to speed when it comes to that, as far as some of the people out there that are doing fragrance reviews and what they're saying and how they're describing these fragrances and breaking them down and things like that. And it was pretty intriguing to me. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to just get into this for a hot second and, see what it do. You know what I'm saying? Have a little bit of fun with it. So, not to be long-winded, I'm going to cut this short, but that's pretty much how I got to this point of doing these fragrance reviews and things like that. And, that's pretty much it. You know what I'm saying? Now, before I end this, I would like to say, if you rocking with this content, go ahead and drop something in the comments. You know what I'm saying? Like, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think about this. You know what I'm saying? If you got a fragrance that you would like for me to review, drop that fragrance in the comments and I'll see if I have it. If I don't have it, I'll probably pick it up in the near future once I do my research on it. If it sounds like something that I might be interested in, I'll go ahead and pick that up and do that review for you. But until next time, man, I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Peace out.